The goods from the woods.
Hot damn! Welcome to a very special presentation. This is The Goods from the Woods presents episode number 2 of the Mystic Order podcast. And now you may be wondering, what is the Mystic Order podcast? Well, it's a podcast that's hosted by 6 lovely women from the great state of Alabama, one of whom joins me today, and that is my mother, Gail Smith Langley. How are you?
Hello, son. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I got contacted by you for a very interesting project back around January. You called me and said, hey, books aren't selling very well nowadays. How hard is a podcast? And I told you it is at the same time the easiest and most difficult thing you will ever do.
Yes, I have discovered that the last time I studied this hard, I believe, was when I took statistics in the 60s at Auburn University.
Yeah, but you guys, you're starting to get the hang of it, though, now, aren't you?
We're getting the hang of it, but oh my God, just looking at when I was editing, there were periods there where I had to get Kleenex to dry my eyes.
Is that hard?
It was very, very, very hard. And when you tried to help me, when we were FaceTiming and you were trying to help me, you got so frustrated. All I could say is that's how I felt raising you.
Yeah, during math homework, specifically.
Yes, math homework with Rivers.
Yeah, that was the way you felt is how I felt during algebra. But yeah, I guess talk a little bit about the Mystic Order of East Alabama fiction writers and perhaps a little bit about what we're going to be hearing, because we are actually going to play, this is sort of a bonus episode just for people to get a little taste of y'all's podcast, and hopefully they'll make their way over to iTunes, SoundCloud, all that stuff, and get subscribed and everything like that to the Mystic Order podcast. But talk a little bit about the Mystic Order and y'all's relationship and how long you've been together and all that kind of thing.
Well, the Mystic Order is comprised of 6 women of an age. And we have been together, well, we actually can't remember how long we've been together, but we started by meeting at a grocery store here called Bruno's.
Uh-huh.
And Bruno's went defunct, and we're not sure if it was our fault or perhaps their marketing fault, but we met there in their citizen room where you can sign up for it. We have had several discussions of how long we've been together, but we think it's between 15, maybe 16, 17 years. And we just started out writing and reading each other's material, and we got so much that we decided we wanted a book. So we published our first book after a lot of catastrophes, and it was called Be the Flame, because when women get together and they start talking, sometimes, well, of course, now that we're old, no, not so much, but sometimes they'll talk about their love gone wrong. Uh-huh. And I always would tell them, be the flame, not the moth. So that became sort of our theme, and our logo has a moth on it, and that's where it came from.
Yeah, I retweeted y'all's logo, and I got a lot of comments on Twitter being like, that is a very, very strong logo. So I told Mary Dansack that y'all should put that on some T-shirts and stickers and sell them at the next time y'all do a reading over at the coffee shop.
Hey, we're doing a reading in Moulton, Alabama, which is at the top of the state. Uh-huh. And there's a ball the night before. I don't know if this is a Cinderella kind of thing or a blue jean ball. Uh-huh. But then the next day, we're the headliner for the book sales. I have absolutely no idea what's going on, but we're going to Moulton for the book fair.
When is that?
October 22nd. So everybody come to Moulton, Alabama, and buy our books.
Yeah, there we go. We'll plug it. So yeah, I know the Goods from the Woods. I know we got some listeners in North Alabama. We got some listeners in Tennessee. So go down to Moulton, get you some books, and
yeah, I need a date for the ball. Your dad won't go with me. He is said he's been to his last ball.
Oh well, I'd go if I was there.
Thank you, darling.
So I, just for a little background, was in Alabama back in April and kind of helped you guys get going with the first few episodes. And so I was recording actually this one that we're about to air, episode 2, A Missing Mystic, and The reason I chose this one to air specifically, A, was because, you guys will already have episode 1 sort of in the can so people can check out multiple episodes. But also, genuinely one of the funniest just conversations I've ever sat through. That second episode of the show, you guys are doing like a season sort of thing, so there's going to be 12 episodes. I was not there for episodes 5 through 12, so I'm very excited to be able to hear those as well as they unfolded, but I was fortunate enough to hear the first 4, and the second one is great. And something that occurred to me was, typically when I listen to podcasts, most podcasts I listen to are hosted by people in their 20s and 30s. So it was very interesting to hear, as you said, women of an age who have, in some cases, double the life experience of most people I have. And you guys have funny stories on every topic just from being around.
I would like to say something about women of an age. We decided to branch out, and we did a podcast in a popular coffee shop here called Mama Mocha's.
How did that go?
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because Mystic Mary went to all the young people, the 20-somethings, who were there drinking coffee and pretending to study, and said, we're about to do a podcast, and the subject is unusual phenomenon. And if you have anything you want to say,
oh God,
please come over to the microphone.
Oh no.
Well, of course, they were so weirded out at these women of an age podcasting that I think they thought we had dummy microphones and we're just putting them on. So
like they gave you just something to do at the senior center and just cut you loose.
Yes,
well, just make them pretend they're doing a little radio show.
They couldn't have bingo night, so they sent us to Mama Mocha's. And basket weaving, it was over for the year. So here we were at Mama Mocha's with our microphones, thinking we were pretty spiffy.
Yeah.
Not one person, not one. They would not only would they not come over, they wouldn't look us in the eye. They pretended that they couldn't see us. So when they went to get coffee, they made a big arc around our table just in case we grabbed them. And finally, some guy came in that Mystic Joanne is head of every club in Auburn. If somebody wants a president, they ask Joanne, and she's their president for the year.
Yeah.
So this was a speaker for, I think, the Rotary Club. And he recognized Joanne, and he came over. He told us of an unusual thing that happened to him that just blew our minds. And I think that is in podcast 11. But I'm not sure. And I can't even remember podcast 2, to be truthful with you, because I've listened to them all over and over. So you tell me what it says. I know one reason you're particularly taken with it, though, is you have finally gotten to really meet my friend Marian Carcacci.
Yeah. When y'all were recording episode 2, it was when I realized, because every great podcast, I think, has their wild card, the person on the show who can kind of bring everything to a standstill with some off-the-wall thing that they say, and y'all have your Mrs. Goodnight, and that is Marian Carcacci, who is a family friend I think I've literally known my entire life, and always had, nothing but pleasant interactions with her. She's a very sweet lady, but it's not until you really sit down and listen to Marian talk where you're like, oh, she is amazing. Like, she's a very good storyteller, and she is, she's an odd duck, as they say.
Right.
But very, very fun to listen to, and an amazing storyteller.
My favorite thing to say about Marian is she refuses to turn left. And so she's charted out how to get to the Walmart and the Winn-Dixie by circumferencing Auburn.
Is that real? Is that true?
Yes, this is true. You know it is.
I didn't know that.
So she has to turn right. And my second cousin and my grumpy cousin, Bert Pratt, she told him that one time, probably when he was in his early 50s. He's now like 80. And he goes, how's that lady that won't turn left? Has she turned left yet? No, Bunky, she has not turned left, and she does not intend to. So
wow.
Getting to the liquor store is not easy when you don't turn left.
I was going to say. Wow.
She has to rely on the kindness of strangers.
Oh, man. Is there anything else you want to say about the show or about this episode before we roll into it?
Well, I would like to say that book sales in general and bookstores are going out of business every 5 seconds. So we want you to support especially independent bookstores, and buy a book. If you go to a reading, buy a book. I mean, it's $25 maybe.
Yeah.
But we particularly want you to buy our books, which you can find on Amazon.
Yeah, and the name of those books, I believe you plug them in the episode, but we'll say them again here. Be the Flame, Not the Moth, The Ploy of Cooking, and the newest book, which is called
Mastering the Art of Wench Cooking. Not French cooking, but wench cooking.
Wench Cooking. All of those books are fantastic. I highly recommend them, and you can find them all on Amazon or your local bookstore. And so go over to iTunes and SoundCloud, get subscribed to the Mystic Order podcast, and enjoy this very special presentation of the Mystic Order podcast, episode number 2, A Missing Mystic.
Dare we open Pandora's Mystic box?
To every generation, a slayer is born, except this time there were 6.
This is the dimension of imagination. You are entering the mystic zone.
Do you ladies see that aura? Something wonderful this way comes.
Welcome to the Mystic Order podcast. We are the Mystic Order of East Alabama fiction writers, and I'm Mystic Gail, the Mystic Queen.
I'm Mystic Marion, the dog whisperer mystic.
I'm Mystic Joanne, the defender mystic.
I'm Mystic Margie, the illuminator mystic.
And I'm Mystic Katie, the oracle mystic.
And we're missing a mystic.
That would be Mary, our nebulous mystic.
And where exactly is Mary?
At the beach.
You know, that reminds me, Marion. Do you remember me telling me that your fondest dream is that you could see the beach one more time?
Yes, like in Midnight Cowboy.
Yes.
Yes, Marion, I guess it is like that, although I don't really remember Midnight Cowboy.
Well, he wanted to see the beach.
Oh, I see.
One more time.
Okay, then. Well, this is our second podcast. I hope you heard the first one. It was about, I don't know what it was about. I was hoping it was about our newest book, Mastering the Art of Wench Cooking, but somehow these girls got off track, which happens constantly, believe me. Heavy is the head that holds the crown. But now you have found us. Where else can they find us? Well, you can find us at facebook.com/Mystic Order of East Alabama. And what did you like about our first podcast, Margie?
I love the spontaneity.
Oh, we were spontaneous?
Yeah. I actually just love listening to my fellow mystic sisters talk about our wonderful group.
Well, I know that some of our listeners called in and said they wanted to hear more about Marion's roses that she got from either Pat Nixon or Bess Truman. And so I'm going to ask Marion, which first lady was it?
It was Pat Nixon. I wasn't a bride during Bess Truman's days.
You weren't even born.
Some of you were, though, weren't you?
You weren't a twinkle in your mama's eye during Bess Truman's days.
Okay, then. Well, so Pat Nixon taught someone to
arrange red roses.
And how did they get to Alabama?
Well, the friend who arranged the red roses grew them in Alabama in her own rose garden and then cut them for my wedding and brought them over and arranged them in the back hall because my reception was at the house, at Mom and Daddy's house. I got married in a little Methodist church and they forgot and left me at the wedding. And I had to walk the ditch in my wedding gown to get to my own reception.
Well, that's sad.
But the beautiful roses were there when I got there to make up.
Marion, how on earth did they leave you at the church?
They were so caught up in the moment, I suppose.
Did they take Juan home with them?
Juan Juan and his family went home together, and my family were so intent on making sure everything was right at the at the reception.
That they forgot the
You know,
bride.
that the lamps were on instead of the overheads, and the candles were lighted, and all of this, that they rode off and left me at the church.
Marion, that is pretty darn interesting.
Sad.
Uh-huh. And I know a lot of us talked about our own marriages, happy and sad.
I'm sorry, I have to do one more thing. I have never heard of a bride getting left at the altar after she was married.
Well, now you've heard of it.
Now I've heard it all. Well, maybe not.
Well, let's talk a little bit. That was lovely.
Thank you.
And I hope you have many more roses. But
Thank you.
let's talk a little bit about our first cookbook, since we're all such wonderful cooks. Or would somebody like to share a recent recipe before we start talking about the ploy of cooking?
A recent recipe? Mm-hmm. I know that Katie had a recipe for dirt. Holy dirt.
Holy dirt.
Holy dirt.
Oh, give Katie.
Yes.
How do you make holy dirt?
Well, you have to go to New Mexico and get it.
I
Then
see.
it's really not make it. It's already made. So it's like a pickup thing, you just pick it up and bring it home.
Do they have those parking spaces?
There's not a drive-through. You
But,
have to
where you can pick things up at
like
Walmart
Sonic.
and the
Oh no! Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah. Is there a parking space for picking up holy dirt?
I don't think so. But the recipe tells you how to use it, which is you're not supposed to eat it. Now, I guess you could, but it's supposed to heal all kinds of things.
Well, why were you there?
Well, you and I were there. Remember, Gail? Does that ring a bell?
Oh yes, it was wonderful.
It was. We took a trip to
I know
Santa
what I
Fe.
remember about the holy dirt.
Just tell us.
It was in a lovely little chapel, Catholic chapel. What was the name of it?
Sanctuary of Chimayo. Or Chimayo.
And this is when you get down after crawling through very low openings for doors. When you get down to where the holy dirt is, there are all these crutches and walkers and braces that are put there by the people who were healed by the holy dirt. But of course, I'm wondering how on God's earth they got there, because it was certainly not handicap accessible. It wasn't even accessible hardly for us.
For us, that's right.
And
Yeah.
so I made Katie get my holy dirt because the next door was so low you almost had to do that dance.
The limbo?
The limbo to get the holy dirt. And so I said, well, you just get my own little Ziploc of holy dirt while you're in there. And she did, didn't you?
I did. Yep. And then when we were walking out, as hard as I had to dig that up, we were walking out and there was a woman at the door who could not get back there in her wheelchair. So Gail, the generous soul that she is, gave this woman her bag of dirt.
God knows who needed that holy dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody said that one time about my husband-to-be, Bob Langley. He was failing graduate physics, and I was all pissed off because I thought, well, he can't support me now. So someone bought him prayers for passing physics from someplace in Texas, the Pink Sisters, because they had pink habits, and they're perpetual prayer. So they were praying for Bob, my husband, to pass graduate physics so his new wife wouldn't be pissed off. And we got the note from them, and they were praying for Bob Longley, which is not his name. So I called the person that had generously bought this for us, and I said, they're praying for Bob Longley. And she goes, God knows who needs to pass physics.
Now, isn't there a movie star in some kind of trouble for something similar to that?
I don't know, because I don't know nothing about movie stars.
For people who are not Catholic, y'all sure do a lot of Catholic things. And maybe it was that they were praying for Bob Longley for a long time.
Oh, Longley.
I know Stephen King says you should never use adverbs like that, but perhaps the Pink Sisters did not know that.
Have you read Stephen King's book on writing?
I have.
It's excellent.
Katie, have you?
I have.
Since we're a literary group, I thought I'd throw that out there. If you're out there trying to be a writer, read Stephen King's. But what is the name of that book?
On writing.
On writing.
On writing? Well,
Aptly named.
how creative, Stephen King. You're so creative. On writing. So I recommend that highly. And also, Bird by Bird. Is that
Anne Lamont.
Anne Lamont's
Lamont.
Bird by Bird? Well, back to us. I mean, there.
Wait a minute. Just to mention, since we've been talking weddings, do you know Anne Lamont just got married?
Get out.
Praise Jesus.
I saw it on Facebook. It must be true.
Yes, praise Jesus. Well, back to literary pursuits. Our old book, our old cookbook, which by the way is available on Amazon and was in line for some award, wasn't it?
I think we won an award. Yeah,
Yes.
and yes, we did. We did.
Yes, and it wasn't the Booker Award.
We won an award at my college.
Oh, was that it?
Yes, it was a literary prize at my college, but we were going.
What did we win?
We were going to be paid and me getting a semester off.
Oh, that sucks. Wait a minute. We went to your college. Did we read?
Yes, we did.
Oh, I remember. Judy was so politically incorrect, but
And
we
we
will
forgot
not
to
go
mention
into that.
Judy.
We will not go into
we
that.
were. Yeah, well, we have to talk about Judy.
She kept calling the audience that was mostly foreign students, you people.
Well, no, she actually was trying to be politically correct.
She was telling them how much she
That's
admired
like-
you people.
That's right.
But yeah, my college, I taught, even though I live in Auburn, Alabama, I taught at Perimeter College in Clarkston, Georgia, which is a big immigrant community in Atlanta. And
You
there was-
people?
there were you people from all over the world there, and according to Judy, and it was they were very sweet about it. They just knew she
Well,
couldn't
and-
help it.
Okay, I have to defend. I am the mystic defender. I have to defend Judy. Judy was asking what you people want to be called. And so she was trying very hard to be politically
I
correct.
think we've just lost half our listening audience.
No, Judy was trying to be politically correct, but Judy doesn't get out much. And so she really was trying hard. I mean, it's
And we ought to mention
Judy is-
who Judy is.
Judy is the kindest, sweetest
She
human
is
being on the face of the planet.
Judy is our mystic emeritus. And I actually have a Judys story that I promised never to tell, but I think at this point, why not? And that was, we went to Thanksgiving dinner at Judy's house. And she was married to a country land baron. Yes, Ann. And
Yes, Ann.
he was kind of a gruff soul. And, in fact, Judy said when they got back from their honeymoon, she served his breakfast in a cereal crystal goblet, and put all this pretty fruit on it. And he comes in and goes, "What the hell is this?" And so right then, Judy knew maybe that she was going to have a second, third, or fourth marriage. But no, she had a long, long marriage.
Judy did.
But anyway, Judy invited us to Thanksgiving dinner, and the country gentleman's family came, and so did two people from New York. I don't know where she found these people, but they were journalists, and they had never met anybody from Alabama, and I think they thought Bill and Judy were pretty normal Alabamians, and really, actually, yes, they are. But his sister came, and his sister was missing an arm, and I think it got caught in the combine or something. But
Suck it up, Gail. Suck it up.
anyway, and it was a cold day. It was Thanksgiving. She had a white sock where her arm used to be. So, and the other sister, I think, had palsy. I'm sorry. I've lost it here. But anyway, and it
The
came...
producer keeps laughing, and so Gail, ignore the producer.
Okay, I will.
Ignore the producer.
The producer of our show is over here laughing at me, and it's and I'm going to ignore him. But anyway, so we have these two very kind of cool New Yorkers for Thanksgiving in Alabama, and the two sisters who were unfortunate, and Bill and Judy and my husband. And so right before Thanksgiving dinner, Judy said, "Let's all get in a circle and say grace." And I knew I wasn't going to get on the side of the sock. But the New Yorker wasn't smart enough, so everybody joins hands, and the New Yorker looks at the sock and says, and the sock lady said, "It's okay, just grab the sock." So the other New Yorker was next to the palsy. And so her hands were shaking the whole time we were holding hands for the grace. And Bill gave grace, and it sounded like this: "Father in heaven, bless this food to our bodies, amen." And so that's the end of my Thanksgiving story.
No,
that
it's
Judy
not.
said.
No, it's not the end of your Thanksgiving story.
I have to say that Judy, in the ploy of cooking, the title of her section of stories is called Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, she left that one out.
Well, the ones that she includes are fascinating as well.
But one of the stories that's etched into my mind is about the candlelight.
The candlelight.
yes.
I've totally forgotten it. You tell it to us, Marion.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I do remember it.
The land baron husband didn't want candles. He wanted overhead lights so he could see what he was eating.
Well, this was at the lake, and they had turned their garage into this place to entertain. And he'd put in all these fluorescent lights in the top of the garage so you could see what you were eating. So, and Judy did not like that one bit.
So she lighted the candles, and he went and tried to turn the lights on. And you remember what happened? I wasn't there.
Yes, I do. She had this beautiful motif of candles and linen and so forth, and Bill comes in from the field at the last minute, and there's no light except the candle light, and he keeps flipping the switch, going, "Damn it! Damn it! These lights have never worked." And Judy leans over to me and said, "I took every light bulb out before I started the dinner."
And you have to understand, Judy is tall and graceful and white-haired, and she speaks so quietly. I could just see her very understatedly saying,
I hope she's not listening to this podcast.
Well, before she was
Love
the
our
emeritus mystic, she was the quiet mystic.
That's
Yes.
right. The buttercream mystic.
Here we could tell one more Judy story, which is one of my favorites.
I don't know
is
if we
that
should, because what if she is a podcaster?
If she hears this
Somebody's
podcast,
going to tell her about it. I think we need to be careful.
Yep. We were going to Carson McCullough's house. Now, Marion, you were already there, weren't you?
John David and I went ahead.
Yes.
And I wasn't
Where is
with
Carson McCullough's house?
And, well, it is in Columbus, Georgia. And normally, from where we are, you would go
Well,
up a...
why were we going there?
We were going to talk with our publishers.
We were doing a reading.
at her
doing
house.
a reading, yes. And so I've got a whole list of
And
the
he cooked a
readings we've done.
delicious meal for
Oh,
us
yes.
that
He did.
night.
Well, Johnny could cook. He sure could.
He should have written these books.
Yes. But Judy and I, the quiet mystic, were sitting in the back seat. Mary Dansack was driving, and our mystic queen was navigating.
And I wasn't
You were
there.
navigating. You had the maps in the back seat.
I had near a nap. Near a map.
You had all the
You
maps.
had the GPS, Gail. And so as we were riding, we headed out toward Atlanta, which I didn't think anything of because I thought we were going to Flannery O'Connor's house. And so-
Which is in Milledgeville, Georgia.
and after we get about 20
Not the same.
miles down the road, away from Columbus, Georgia, which is where we're heading, Judy very quietly goes, "I've never been to Columbus this way."
Because we were out in East Jesus. We didn't know where we were.
And then, yes, Gail gets on the GPS, and we took a lovely scenic tour of
The swamps.
the swamp. But the worst of it was, as Mary was navigating, and I don't know where Gail got your GPS, but it took us to Beulah, which I think some people know is the meth capital of the world. And as we
It
were,
is.
when we were totally lost, and I'm smelling chemicals, Mary says, "Let me stop and ask right here. These people are up on the porch." And I said, "Just keep driving. Just keep driving. Do not stop." So that was an exciting time. We got there.
We did
about-
get to the reading. What,
We
half
did.
an hour late?
Pretty late because I think I was going it on my own by the time
Yes,
y'all
you
got
were.
there.
Oh, really? That was kind
It was
of you.
almost like I had a reading just for me.
What was our book? Oh, it was the first book.
The first book was,
It was Be the
Johnny.
Flame.
Yeah.
Sweet Johnny.
I want to say something about our first publisher. I gave him the manuscript. He's local, so, we didn't know who to give the manuscript to. So we gave it to him, and he said he was not going to publish it. And I came back to the meeting and said, well, he's not going to publish it. But they say, keep trying. We'll try someone else. And a week later, he calls me and says, I've changed my mind. I'm going to publish your book. And I said, what made you change your mind? And do y'all know why he changed his mind?
I know.
What is it?
He read it.
He read it. Now,
And actually, we should give some credit to his son because his son's the one who hooked us up with him.
no, I met him at a flea market. He was pushing books from all
I
his...
gave the manuscript to
Perfect
his
place
son.
to meet a publisher.
Yeah, at a flea market. He was pushing books or his book or something. And, well, the flea market isn't really a flea market. It's an antique store flea market in Opelika that we all love to, particularly
yes.
Marion loves to go to, right?
Used to, back before Marie Kondo.
Well, so anyway, and what? Before what?
Before I adopted the Japanese art of tidying up.
Oh, so of
Now-
course you can't buy anything now because you already own it.
Right.
Well, and I saw the front of Marion's house the other day, and what was that piled up out front?
Donations. Is that what you mean? Or did you see something else
I
piled
think
up?
there was probably donations out there.
Yeah.
Wait, you had clothes in your front yard?
Well, no. Actually, I think I saw the
Sunroom?
the debris from the backyard.
What? What were
Somebody,
you doing?
did you have somebody come and help clear out the backyard?
John David.
John David.
Well,
Oh,
that's
good for
not.
him.
That's
that
not,
wasn't in-
That's not in the book.
But that's cleaning up.
No, but
That's not in the book.
Inside, outside.
This is where you take all the items you own and put them in your hand and say, "Does this give me
Me
happiness?"
joy.
and you go, but
Yeah,
we can't do that on a podcast.
That's right.
Well, you nod your head. Yes,
you nod.
you nod your
Blink
head.
as you know.
I cannot believe so many pizzas in your house do not give you happiness.
Oh, it's clothes. It's mostly clothes that I am getting rid of. Not blackamoors or camels or fezzes.
But Marion, what clothes are you keeping though?
The Margie clothes, of course.
Well, some
Wait a
of
minute.
Those, yes.
What was that first one you listed?
Costumes. Blackamoors.
I see.
I'm sorry.
A blackamoor?
And I don't know what a blackamoor is. I need a
it's
dictionary.
It's a Moor. It's a man in a turban and
Blackmore clothes?
no,
Statues.
No, the things I'm not getting rid of.
I see.
Or not. I'm getting rid of clothes.
Yes.
I'm not getting rid of.
I thought you had his clothes. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Unfortunately, when I clean out my clothes, I give them to Marion.
And then she has. And you know what? When I clean out my house, I give it to Marion or the Mystics, the Great American Giveaway. As a matter of fact, I have 2 pillows here that if y'all just adore, I want you to take with you after the podcast.
We are in a vicious cycle.
Amen to that, sisters. So,
So back to the fact that we are or aren't cooks. I haven't decided yet, but we did write The Ploy of Cooking. Margie, I want you to tell us about your illustrations in The Ploy of Cooking.
Okay, The Ploy of Cooking. And now, in our first book, I didn't get to do the cover because I happened to be teaching in Spain. And they've told me that they were...
Sounds like a likely story.
They told me that they had gotten somebody else to do the cover. And I went like, am I still a mystic? But they let me do the interior illustrations. But, well, that's another story. But in The Ploy of Cooking, I got to do everything as their mystic illuminator. So I started out illustrating every story that was written, but we were each introduced by something, and we determined, since it was a cookbook, we would be each introduced by an apron. And I let the mystics choose what would be on their apron. And so Gail is the queen, so she has a very regal apron with flowers on it. And mine has birds on it because I like birds. Mary has the sun, moon, and stars since she is the nebulous mystic and used to teach 6th grade science, and now is the keeping science alive in Alabama. Marion is the dog whisperer mystic since she has I don't know.
Well, at the
18
time, I
dogs.
had 7 dogs at the time, and Margie actually put my
But
dogs.
for anybody who's listening, she does not live in Auburn.
I'm not over the limit
She doesn't
anymore.
have a kennel.
I'm not over the limit anymore.
good.
Furthermore, they're trying to change the zoning of my neighborhood, so they need not mention my dogs to me.
Okay, well, she doesn't have that many dogs.
Again,
Wait,
I'm
let's
being
go
the
back to your
defender.
zoning problem. Why are they changing the zoning?
They're trying to change the zoning on my street so that we can have short-term rentals.
Oh.
And I can't help but be suspicious of those big things that have been built on my street. If that wasn't the long-range plan for those to start with. So I have a plan. If the city council allows my community to become a hotel district,
A vacation
I'm
rental
going
by
to turn
owner
my house into a homeless shelter.
for dogs?
No, for human beings. And I'm going to cook.
Marion, I've never known you to like human beings.
Well, I'm going to. I like homeless ones. I'm going to cook on the front yard. I'm going to put up tents and cook on the front yard. And
Marion, may I be your mama for a minute?
I think you're going to
they
have to
will-
be her attorney.
They
Forget
will
mama.
murder you in your sleep.
Once
not
again,
if I have all those homeless people living on my property.
Joanne, once again, I think that we're going to call up your skills as an attorney for Marion.
Yes, because Joanne is our
Mystic Defender. And I should have had, instead of, as Margie was talking about our aprons, I guess I should have had little scales of justice on my apron.
I know.
instead
Instead,
of-
she has dragonflies, which is one of her favorites.
But I butted in. Go back, Margie.
No. And Judy, of course, on hers as the quiet mystic, had feathers.
That's
Yes.
right. I don't know why that's right.
Well, that's just how it happened. At the
Quiet as
beginning
a
of the
feather.
book, as I'm telling you about how I conceived these illustrations, I had 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, and the blackbirds fly throughout the book. And on the cover, the apron has blackbirds.
What did Marion say?
What did you say, Marion?
Quiet as a feather.
Quiet as a feather.
White as a feather? Is that a saying?
Well,
is now.
Once I saw the Mr. Producer shake his head, I realized that I got it wrong.
Mystic producer. I have been chastised.
This ploy of cooking cover may be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
And you can
Thank
order
you,
it on
Marion.
Amazon. And,
Yes,
and
you
Margie
can.
has her own book that is absolutely beautiful. We'll be talking about our own books at a later episode, but just tell the name of yours so they can order it if they want it.
Yes, The Art of Margie Bright Ragland and the Words of Others.
Yes. that
Bright
sounds long.
illuminations.
Bright Illumination.
Bright Illuminations.
Yes, and
what is
thanks
it?
to my publisher and editor, our queen, Gail,
thank you.
who organized my book and made it be what it is. It's got the works of 27 different authors with my collages. And
the
it's
collages are magnificent.
It was really pretty great. Okay, but enough about me.
Oh, well, let's talk a little bit about
The ploy.
me and the ploy of cooking. I wanted to tell you about one story in the ploy of cooking that I found amusing. I won't read it. I'll just tell you about it. I was having an afternoon toddy, which is so unusual for this group, with 2 friends. And one friend was from Estonia, and one was from Alabama. And so they both had very unusual accents. But anyway, one of them said, "Did you know that Maud has a power mower?" And there's just not a lot to be said about power mowers. You know, that's how you get your yard fixed, or your person fixes your yard with it. But anyway, I decided to be social, so I said, and I'm going to read a little bit here. "We have 2 at the farm. We work both at the same time. Bob rides one, and I ride the other until the job's done. We don't get overheated and we don't get tired. We actually couldn't get along without our paramours. And then they looked very shocked, and Maud said, "That's paramour. I have a new paramour." And that's the recipe for that is Wicked cookies, and they're absolutely delicious. Even if I'm not a cook, the Wicked cookies are delicious. So when you buy the book from Amazon, The Ploy of Cooking, look up my Wicked cookies.
Well, we talked a little bit about our publisher, our first publisher, but Jimmy Johnson was the publisher of The Ploy of Cooking. And for those of you who don't know who Jimmy Johnson is, you're living under a rock? No. He's a cartoonist who draws and publishes Arlo and Janice. And Jimmy, a little bit of a curmudgeon, but he...
A little, you think?
Yes. He published our
Yes,
book.
ma'am.
He published our book under the, was it Upper Creek Publishing?
In Camp Hill, Alabama.
In Camp Hill, Alabama.
It's a thriving metropolis, by the way.
It is. And again, if you are not from this area and you don't know where Camp Hill is, obviously you ain't from around here. It's a dot between Auburn and Dadeville. Dadeville is sometimes known because it's Lake Martin. But Jimmy just had one request of us, and that was that after he published the book, we don't bother him anymore.
No, before we published it.
Before.
Just don't bother him.
Well, he published it, but he knew already, and he named us this, that we were shameless self-promoters, so all was good. But do you remember the book signing at Jimmy's house?
I do. He cooked about 6 different kinds of soup.
Yes, gumbo.
And everybody came to see Jimmy, not us.
Well, that was all right.
And he had high quality bourbon.
That's true. Very
Which-
high quality bourbon, a sign of a good man. But I think I did a book signing with Jimmy in Opelika. Were y'all there? I think it was a
I
Mystic
think I
book.
was, yes, because we ate at that Italian restaurant afterwards.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I remember
So Jimmy's got his book, Arlo and Janice, and we've got our book, whatever it was at the time. And
The ploy.
The Ploy of
it was
Cooking.
the ploy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the lines line up, and Jimmy's got 572 people lined up telling him, "Oh, you are wonderful." And we have 6 people going, "I can't wait to read your book." So we decided to never, ever do another book signing with our publisher.
I remember something about that night at Jimmy's. It's another Judys story, though.
Uh-oh.
I was sitting next to Judy at the signing table, and I was having a conversation with somebody that was, wanting me to sign her book. And Judy was half listening to me and half listening to the person whose book she was signing. Well, all of a sudden I saw Judy go, "Oh, shoot, I'll just have to buy this one myself," and kind of stick it under the table. And then she went on and signed the book and gave it to the lady. And I said, "What happened there, Judy?" And she said, "Well, this lady was buying this book to give to her sister. She said that she thought her sister would enjoy the book, but I was listening to what you were saying, and I looked down and I had written, 'To so-and-so, your sister loves me so much.'"
Wait a minute, is that the book we gave away? We were trying to find
that's
somebody.
right. We had a drawing for the bum book.
That was to Carol, though, right?
It was to Carol.
It was
yes.
to Carol.
Was it to Carol? Your sister loves
that's
me so
right.
much.
Yes. The name of the person was Carol. And so at our opening for the Mastering the Art of Winch Cooking, we decided to give it away to anyone named Carol in the audience. I thought there'd be 10 and they'd fight over it, but no, there was yet one.
Yes.
And it was our Pete Best Mystic.
Yeah, it was our ex-mystic.
It was.
That's right. When we used to meet at Bruno's, and another Judys story is she was always late to the meeting because she's perusing the food in the deli before she comes.
Well, we were hungry. It
And
was
she
always
shows
about
up
dinner
at the
time.
Mystic meeting in Bruno's with, a hoagie that she's gotten from the deli. So, we meant to talk about Mystic Mary and of course we've covered Judy.
Well, before we leave, Judy, I do want to say that Judy is a brilliant poet.
She is.
She is a wonderful
writer.
writer. I mean, she's a wonderful writer.
Yeah, and she wrote for a defunct newspaper from Auburn that everyone loved called the Lee County Bulletin. We called it the Leaky Bull. And it was and it was run by liberals. That's pretty unusual to have a newspaper called the Leaky Bull run by liberals. But it was an early newspaper for Auburn, and Judy wrote for it.
Well, I met Judy when we took a writing course together, and she wrote a story called Death by Mashed Potatoes, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Well, now, where was this?
We took a course at Auburn. It was not anything, but she's got a story in the ploy of cooking called The Johnston Field, which is so sweet. It's
Yeah, it
about
is.
It's about losing your virginity. How sweet is that?
Well, she writes it. It's sweet.
Okay, then. Well, we won't go into that like we did our marriages, okay?
Yes, let's not.
Are we moving on to Mary now since she's not here to defend herself?
Yes, let's do.
And we should talk about some of her stories in the ploy.
Oh,
At least the titles.
good. And I in the introduction, I wrote something about Mary. Should I read it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Mary, for one, does not cook. She's known for candy in a bowl and purchased brownies on a plate. Her only resource, other than the deli, is a crock pot in which she cooks whatever is in reach in the front of her refrigerator shelves. She gives these concoctions clever names to render them delicious. Chili gone carnival, and verily I say unto you soup. Mary's very thin children and slender husband are known to perch on a single leg, patient as Louisiana herons, while surrounding the mystics and their food, looking for handouts. Mary needs this cookbook.
Yes. Mary's title of her chapter in the ploy of cooking, her work, is So Much Universe, So Little Time. And some of her stories include The American Dream, Keeping the Peace, Mule Team, where she had to get permission from Borax to use
write.
their name. The Decision, Blessed and Move On, Holding On, Mon Cherie, 1,000 Points of Light. And her last one is Cinderella, with the recipe for 600, the squash casserole.
Oh, yeah,
for
for the
300.
school she used to
300.
work.
For
She
the
got
school
it
she
from
used
the
to work.
school
Yes.
lunchroom,
Yeah.
and it's for squash for
okay.
600,
Yeah,
squash casserole. And if you're out there listening and you need the recipe for squash casserole for 600, as many of you probably do, it's in our Ploy of Cooking book, which is our first book. Our second cooking book was Mastering the Art of French Cooking.
Wench.
Oh, wench. I said French. Julia, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, Julie.
One of Mary is, and although Mary does not come off as maybe gracious as Judy, she is younger, but she did, one of her stories is about writing a thank you note to the police after she was arrested because they treated her so nicely. And
That's because she knew the sheriff.
Southern ladies are always taught to write thank you notes for kind deeds.
Well, she knew the sheriff, and she also knew you as her lawyer.
Yeah, I would also like to state at this point that I personally have never been arrested, but I am the queen.
Well, you're probably the only one of us.
I was never
Have you ever been arrested,
technically-
Marion?
I was never technically
I've
arrested.
never been arrested, but I've had to have interference run.
What? and what? Go on.
No, I won't go on about that. But I can talk about testifying before the grand jury.
All right then.
What did you testify for?
Well, I probably shouldn't put this out there.
Was it private? Just like we do in our writing, just change the
I
names
might
to
have to
protect the
go
innocent.
into witness protection for this. But when I was a freshman, I grew up in rural Russell County, an only child with no neighbors, nobody to play with. So I read a lot, and I read at that time there were 42 Nancy Drew books, and I read every one of them, and I wanted to grow up to be a girl detective. So when I was living at Plainsman Apartments, I shouldn't have told the apartment complex.
I think they're going to be
I think it's
torn
torn
down
down.
next week anyway.
I noticed a car that was okay. It was very hard to park there, even if you were parking forward. And I noticed a car backed into one of those parking places, and I counted how many spaces down from the dumpster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just say it was 8 spaces down. So every day as I came and went to classes and back, I counted. That car didn't move, and it was backed in. So I tried to go around behind it to get a license plate, because at the time I knew somebody had run a plate for you. Well, you couldn't, because they had parked it where it was parked with the back end over a ledge, a drop down. So you couldn't go around behind it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get the serial number. So I walked around front, and they had stuffed a towel over the serial number in the front. So I went down to the Auburn police and asked to speak to Detective DeGraff and Reed, the father.
Yes.
And
the father of the person owning
the
car?
father of Buddy, who was later Detective
Oh, I
DeGraff
see.
and Reed.
Buddy's father.
Buddy's my age, was my age. But I went to speak.
Did you know Buddy?
I knew Buddy.
Okay.
And
But-
the DeGraff and Reeds are famous police officers in Auburn.
But I went to
Well,
Buddy's
but
father.
isn't everybody named Buddy in Auburn and most of the South?
There's only Buddy DeGraff and Reed that
Okay.
I know of.
All right, go ahead.
But anyway, I went to speak to the first detective, DeGraff and Reed, that I knew, and I told him the whole story. I said, I live at this apartment complex, and there's this car, and I told him the make and color and everything, and I said, it's not moving. It's been there for so many days. It's backed in. I told him all this information, and he said, and how did you come to notice this? And I said, that's just how I am. I'm very observant. So they came and checked it out, and it was a stolen car. And it led to breaking up a car theft ring.
Marion.
Oh,
So-
aren't you somebody?
So the I guess ABI, is that what you call that?
Yeah.
I guess they're the
ABI.
ones who came, but they were down there surrounding that car, and they would yell up to me, have you got a coat hanger? And you know, I was just running things down to them, and they broke into the car, and it was indeed a stolen car, and it was indeed part of a car theft ring. And I had noticed a few weeks before that I went out one day and the license plate on my car was dangling. But apparently somebody had interrupted them stealing my car license
my.
plate. But I had to go to the grand jury and testify about how I found that car.
Well, you can say what you told at the grand jury. You just can't say what somebody else
Well,
told at
I
the
know,
grand
but
jury.
I don't want that car theft ring to hear our podcast and come back
come kill you.
come back to me after all these years.
I think that's just a few years, maybe. Since
Since that happened.
I had an encounter with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation once.
Really?
Yeah. Well, this may be a little off topic, but I think it's relevant.
And so go ahead.
Well, I was in graduate school in Atlanta at Georgia State University working in a gallery. It was an unusual gallery because I was interviewed by the guy that ran it. It was, first of all, it was on the 23rd floor of Peachtree Center, which is a weird place for a gallery. But they had all of this work from New York. I mean, they had Andy Warhol. They had
On the
David-
23rd floor?
Yeah, and it was like, and I
Did
was
someone come visit this gallery?
Yes, I mean, like the director at the High Museum came. I mean, you know, they had really high end work, and the owner or the guy that ran the gallery was a guy named either Tom Paul or Paul Tom. He had 2 first names. But
I like that name,
yeah,
Paul Tom.
Paul Tom. Well, anyway,
I want to tell you, I get friend requests from people named Paul Tom.
Well, it could be him because he was kind of nefarious, but I didn't know that then. So anyway, I got the job. Somebody turned me on to this job, and they wanted a secretary. Well, I can't type, but I told him that, and he said, it's okay. You don't really have to type that much, and I like your socks. I had on, like, unusual socks. So
You gave me some unusual socks.
I know, I love socks, but that's beside the point. So anyway, I got to work there, and I didn't do anything. I mean, all I did, occasionally you'd say, well, type this letter. But I didn't. I just sat there until one day the Georgia Bureau of Investigation came in, and I went, what's up? And they said, well, we'd like to see your driver's license. And so I showed them, and they said, what do you know about this place? And I said, I just know that Paul Tom, runs it, and they've got lots of good artwork in it. But what's up? And they said, well, do you know who actually bought this artwork? And I went, no, I don't. And they said, well, it turns out that this syndicate out of Florida that is using artwork to launder money for guns and drugs.
You're going to be sleeping with the fishes if you keep telling this.
And I went, holy crap. And I went like, oh, well, I'm just, a graduate student. I had no idea. Well, then Paul Tom, whatever his name was, Tom comes in and he goes, listen, this isn't good. I'm moving to D.C. Take anything you want.
Oh, what did you take?
And I said, what? He said, I'm leaving town. I'm packing up a few things. I do not know the guys that bought this stuff, and I'm out of here. And so there was like a whole edition of Andy Warhol, Mick Jagger.
So you have an Andy Warhol original?
No, I didn't take them.
What's wrong with you, Margie?
Well, do you think I tell you the truth?
She doesn't want to swim with the fishes.
That's how come Margie can afford all the equipment for our podcast.
There we go.
Thank you for the podcast equipment,
So
Margie.
anyway, I did the one thing that Paul left me. Before he left, he had a black lab, a beautiful little black lab puppy that had grown to be too big. And its name was Aggie. And he said, would you take Aggie? And I said, yes. And so I had Aggie for 15 years.
Thank you for
And
that, Margie.
And Margie has written a story that has Aggie in it.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do.
What story
Yes.
is that?
Chicken? No, that's
No,
not
that's
Aggie.
Seymour.
That's Seymour.
That's Seymour.
But I do have another story
what
about
book,
Aggie.
What book
Yes,
is that
Aggie.
where the dog ate all the chicken?
Oh, that's
Seymour.
Seymour. That's in the ploy of cooking.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So
But
we're
there
on
is
point here. It's on our book.
But I have one question. Am I in any danger wearing your clothes around?
No, I think you're safe at this point.
Only if you get a white shock of hair up front. Oh, my.
Well,
So we're back on the
Joanne,
ploy.
Go ahead and confess. I don't know. Have you been disbarred or?
No. In fact, I have been vindicated. The Supreme Court has come out and said that I was just expressing my freedom of speech.
What?
When I had just graduated, actually, high school. And I had the only car. Since we had so many children, my father bought me a car so my mother would not have to ferry children.
How many children were there?
There were 12 at the time.
And can you actually name them?
Jimmy, David, Peter, Mark, Arlene, Carol, Charlie, Kathy, Libby, Franny, George.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Yes. We only have a Mark, no Luke, no Matthew. We do have a David John, but other than that. But anyway, so I had the only car, so when we would go cruising, everybody was piled in my car. Two of my brothers and one of their friends was in the back seat. I had an Opel Kadett. Yeah, I know.
My cousin designed those.
Yeah, nobody
Your cousin
makes them
designed the
anymore.
Opel Kadett?
Well, he designed the
think I'd tell
Opal
that.
Manta.
Oh,
The
well.
Opel Manta?
It's shaped like a manta ray.
Well, this was not. This was shaped like a box.
This is embarrassing.
My cousin designed opals.
Well, he may have designed my little Kirby Opal.
Aren't they crappy cars?
No.
They're excellent.
I had a 5-speed. I learned how to drive that thing. My father just put me in it and said, drive. But anyway, so
Don't come back. It's hard to support
Take
the
some of
living.
as many
Take some of
kids as
these
you can
children.
with you.
Put your sisters and brothers in the back seat and go.
Well, my best girlfriend was sitting in the front seat with me, and now you have to understand that I came straight out of almost Catholic school. I had
What is an almost Catholic?
almost, well, I was 2 years out, but I was still very innocent as far as the ways of the world. And I had seen her do this gesture before, so I didn't really know what it meant. But anyway, we were cruising.
I don't either.
I'll tell you about it. We were cruising through Jack's, which was a local hamburger place, and this police officer on a motorcycle came up and said, you can't cruise through here. You'll have to leave. And so I went and I parked because we weren't supposed to be cruising. My brothers went in, got a milkshake, came back out, and he came up. He goes, I thought I told you, you have to leave. And I said, just a moment. Well, about that time, as I was backing out, the cutest boy in high school comes up and starts talking to me. So who's going to leave? And the officer says, if you don't leave right now, I'm going to have you arrested. Well, I pulled out, shot him a bird, and drived out just as fast as I could.
And so what?
Shot him a bird?
No, I mean, I've got that. I do have.
Well, he got on his little motorcycle and he chased us down. He stopped me, demanded my license, which I gave him.
The OJ chase, the Opal chase.
Well, this is a fast chase. It was not a slow chase. But
it was a fast
actually,
chase and an
he
Opal?
did. Well, he cut me off. Anyway, so we got, he gave me he said, license, and he goes, now follow me back to Jack's. And I said, I can't. And he said, well, why not? I said, you have my license, and I'm not going to drive my car without my license. He got very indignant. We went back, and the chief of police was there and came up, and he said, Joanne, come here. I said,
Did you
yes,
know
sir.
this man?
No, I did not.
Well, why did he call you Joanne? If
Because
you
he
didn't know
knows everybody. It's Opelika. They knew everybody. He knows everybody. And came up, and he said, if you had been as nice to, because I was boo-hooing by this time, he said, if you had been as nice to officer as you have been to me.
Officer Minsky?
Krupke.
Krupke.
Officer Krupke, as you have been to me, he said, he probably wouldn't have arrested you. And I said, Captain, if Officer Krupke has been as nice to me as you've been, I wouldn't have shot him a bird. He said, go home. But the Supreme Court says that's perfectly acceptable. It is your freedom of speech.
Well, I gave that up for Lent.
Shooting birds?
No, that's really not true. Because I gave up the F word for Lent.
Well, and I have never, I can't say that now, but at
That's
that
why
point,
I, can't tell
I did
you
not
about the socks.
know.
I can't tell you about the socks Margie gave me because I gave that word up for Lent.
Yes, but it says, I'm a delicate word she gave up. Flower.
Yeah. I'm a delicate effing flower.
Effing
On my
flower.
socks. And I got them for my, no, we won't go there. Which birthday?
Margie has the best socks.
Yes, I realize that it's past Easter, but whatever I give up for Lent, I try to carry through in my life.
I say it again.
And I actually, one year, before it was even a thing, gave up plastic bags for Lent.
I remember that.
And I went into a Goodwill store at the beach, and I found a tie for my husband, extra long, and I bought it for him because there's not a lot of extra long ties in Goodwill. And the woman tried to put it in a plastic bag, and I said, no, I gave up plastic for Lent. And she said, well, I'll have to carry this tie for you out to the parking lot.
They didn't have receipts.
Well, guys, speaking of shooting birds, my mother used to shoot birds at people all the time.
That's just wrong.
When
Don't
my
tell
dad
that.
was driving.
But wasn't your mother from Cuba or something?
No, that was my stepmother.
Oh.
This was my real mother.
Wait, dude. What does that mean?
Well,
I mean, people.
Talk about politically
ladies from
incorrect.
Alabama don't shoot birds.
well, she
I
wasn't
see.
from Alabama.
I see.
She was from Kentucky.
well,
The girl who taught me how to shoot birds was from Alabama.
you
she
hang
did it.
around with the wrong people.
Well, she did it after she found out what they meant, because she didn't really know what they meant. My little brother, one time at dinner, she was saying something to him, and so he shot a bird at her, and she goes like, "What is that? What is that?" And my little brother went, "I'm not telling." And so he ran upstairs, and so my father goes up and says, "Now, Ted, do you know what that means?" And my brother said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, what does it mean?" And my brother said, 2 balls and a dick.
Really, I'm so glad
Kind of sort of.
have kept this highbrow today.
We may have to edit that one out.
I'm just thankful for
we
the
can
Supreme
edit
Court.
that one out. Let's.
Yes,
what-
back
Thankful
to the
that
ploy.
that the Supreme Court has said that we have this right to say this.
Did they actually? I think that's made up. I mean, I can't imagine the Supreme Court bothering with it.
No, they did. Absolutely. Here's the lawyer. Yes, somebody shot a bird, got arrested for it, and actually it was at a police officer, just like my case, and they determined that that was not
Were
a
you
crime.
into your third or fourth glass of wine when you read the Supreme Court?
You know, I have a friend who went to jail in Opelika for shooting a bird at a policeman.
I almost did.
Well, he did. He went to jail.
And Gail, all right, the next podcast, I'm bringing you the case.
Okay, I think you should, and that's exactly what I would like. I want to go back to Paul Tom, is that his name?
Yes,
Or Tom Paul?
Tom Paul. Palm tall.
Tom Tall?
Palm tall. We'll just say that.
I honestly, every day, get a request from somebody like Tom Paul, to be their friend. Do y'all get these?
Does he have on a military uniform with a flag behind him?
And usually it has their name on it, like Ledbetter. And so whoever's sending me this hasn't noticed that his name, in fact, is not Palm Tall. It's Lieutenant Ledbetter. And I don't know why they can't read the uniform and see the mistakes they're making. But anyway, it's constant. And all of them are either divorced or widowed. And they all own a German Shepherd.
Puppy, a German Shepherd.
And they have no friends, which is kind of sad.
What kind of websites are you girls on?
Facebook friend requests.
Yes.
Yeah.
Facebook friend request.
Which is why I'm not on Facebook.
Well, also, you're not techie. We have to call you to tell you we're sending you an
Absolutely.
email.
Well, you forget that I worked for the NSA, so I know what happens there.
Did you work for the NSA?
Yes, I did.
Yes, go on.
Do go. Well, we'll get to that after I tell you that I've not accepted a single friend request from these people
Thank
because
you.
I don't think they're real.
Duh.
And then all their pictures are framed with another picture, which is just wrong.
And if
Gail-
they do have friends, well, I'm not going to. I'm
Why
just going
would
to leave
you
that right
accept
there.
a friend request from somebody you don't know anyway?
Rivers Langley told me when I first
She
got on
didn't
Facebook.
accept. These
Okay.
are requests.
Okay.
No, let me say this. My son, the comedian in Hollywood, and believe me, Hollywood.
And the Mystic producer.
Yes, that's right. Him. He told me when I first got on Facebook that like people were trying to friend me that I hate. And so I go, should I be friends with this person because I hate them? And he goes, you friend everybody. You friend everybody. So the last time he came home, I showed him these people, and he goes, don't friend those people.
I was gonna say,
they're
but
in
the
Somalia.
key-
They want our money.
The key with the people that you hate is the fact that they're people you know. You have to know them to hate them. And not Tom, Paul, Tom, Ledbetter.
I wouldn't know how painfully stupid one of our mutual acquaintances was if I weren't her Facebook friend.
Say that again.
I wouldn't know how painfully stupid one of our mutual acquaintances is if I weren't her Facebook friend.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We do have to befriend the stupid.
Yeah.
Because
Like you have,
Because there's so many in
Well, and
Alabama.
it's because we're so
there's so many
intellectually
everywhere.
there's so many everywhere.
intellectually elevated that it all seems so. But anyway.
Well, anyhow, back to your employment with what now? The National.
And that may be another time, the National Security Agency. And I will just say that I was a researcher, linguist, and I can't talk about it.
Is it sort of like the Bletchley Circle?
You cannot talk about it.
We know you speak Russian.
Yes, I know.
Listen, Joanne speaks all languages. Just ask her.
Я говорите по-русски.
Oh my God. Oh, let me tell y'all what happened at Tai Chi today. I love this.
I don't speak Mandarin.
Well, that's what I was going to say. But the head of our Tai Chi class, who is brilliant and does a wonderful job, I was asking her that when I go swimming, can you do Tai Chi in the swimming pool, and can you gather chi or energy in the swimming pool? Is that possible? And she looked at the assistant teacher and said, there is a Tai Chi in water. And she goes to the assistant professor, who is from Alabama, by the way, what is Mandarin for water? And the assistant answered her and gave her, and Kitty, the head, goes, no, that's not it. What's Mandarin for ocean? And so the woman told her that, and I thought, I think I've missed some lessons here. You know, I got the form. I can do the 24 forms and Tai Chi for arthritis, but I can't speak Mandarin. So I was just totally amazed today.
The only Mandarin that I know is from Sandy, and it's Sheshe.
Sheshe, yeah.
Sheshe.
Well, they told me goodbye in Mandarin because I was still puzzled about it, and all I could do is say goodbye in German because it's my only non-language. I don't speak it either, but I do know tschüss instead of auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
But anyway, people are going to probably want to contact us.
They're probably going to be sending us friend requests. Go in and comment.
But don't be friending them on Facebook.
Marion, can you tell how people might contact the lovely and charming mystics?
Well, yes, I can. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mystic Order of East Alabama, or what's much easier is just go to Facebook and put Mystic Order of East Alabama in the search box. You can also find us on Twitter at The Mystics Pod, youtube.com/The Mystics Pod, and you may drop us a line at themysticspod@gmail.com.
And we want you to rate, review, and subscribe. We're 5-star kind of girls. We thank you, and the universe thanks you.